All right, what is going on? Welcome to episode 5 of Asset Creators. Today, we're going to be talking about why self-mastery needs to be the number one focus for solopreneurs. If you know me, if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that this is arguably my favorite thing to talk about. I love talking about self-mastery. I love talking about all things self-improvement and just becoming the best version of yourself. So this is going to be a good one. And I'm ready to dive deep into this and just really looking forward to it. So thanks for being here. If you're live or if you're watching the recording, either way, really passionate about what we're going to be talking about today. So let's dive right in as always. So of course, if we're going to be talking about why self-mastery needs to be this number one focus, I'm putting the utmost importance on it. We're going to have to talk about what it actually is. So there's a lot of different definitions of what it is. And I'm not saying by any means is this the 100% end all be all definition. It's kind of a culmination of a bunch of different definitions that I've found to be the most accurate according to what I believe in my views. So essentially, self-mastery is the attainment of internal power where your rational mind and core principles dictate your actions, allowing you to understand and regulate your internal impulses rather than being driven by them. Now, I know that's kind of wordy, so we can break it down a little bit, but essentially it's just saying you are the one who is able to control your impulses, your natural instincts, things like that, and decide whether you want to act on them or not. And you're not driven just by impulses, just instincts and things like that. So you have this essential internal power over yourself, over your mind, over your thoughts, and your actions, your decisions. That's pretty much it. Once again, I understand there's so many different ways to flip this or to view this, but I found, at least from my worldview, that this is the best definition that I could kind of come up with or put together or find. So now that we know what it is, okay, we want to talk about why it needs to be the number one focus for solopreneurs, because you might be reading this headline of the episode and being like, okay, Darian, like self-mastery, cool, but why is that actually important, right? You want to know why. And essentially, I've broken it down to a couple bullet points. There's way more, but these are the ones I find to be the most valuable for solopreneurs or most relevant. So without self-mastery, you will feel unworthy. And actually, let me just jump in and say this. I'm not saying that you have to have yourself fully mastered to be able to do this. You want to be on the pursuit of it, because mastery is one of those things where it's hard to even dictate if there's a final destination or not. But when you're on the pursuit of it, right, that's when these things I'm about to talk about are going to be relevant. So without self-mastery or being on the pursuit of it, right, you're going to feel unworthy, right? And this could show up in so many different ways, but to a solopreneur, this could be, imposter syndrome, things around money, beliefs around money, like you don't deserve money, right? You're going to feel a lack of trust in yourself because you're not disciplined, you're not focused, so you're not going to be able to trust yourself to make good decisions or give advice, or depending on what, your service business is. You're not going to be able to get enough great done. And I use the word great here very intentionally, because when I say great work or get enough great done, I'm referring to the fact that when you're focused, when you're disciplined, you can lock in, you're dialed in, and you can do your best work, right? Without self-mastery, you're going to be distracted. You might have your phone there. You might be flipping tabs. You might be eating poorly. So you're not actually going to be at your best, and you're not going to get the greatest work you can done, okay? You will bomb sales calls due to lack of confidence. So self-mastery is going to give you confidence, because you're going to have the utmost confidence in yourself, knowing that, if you have an urge or an impulse, you can say no to it. You can, stay true to your word. All of these things are going to give you confidence, right? So when you're on sales calls, you're going to feel confident. You're going to show up confident. People are going to see you as confident. And so you're not going to bomb calls or bomb DM conversations where somebody seems interested, but once again, it all ties back into this stuff, right? And then finally, never stick with anything long enough to see results, because you're never going to stick with anything. You're going to always be chasing something shiny or chasing the next thing, or thinking, oh, this is failing. This isn't the right thing. And you'll move on before you even have a chance to see results. So these are just some of the reasons this is so important and so relevant to solopreneurs. Okay. So I really wanted to drive that home, and I wanted to finish this with a quote from my favorite author of all time, Robert Greene, from his book Mastery, which I have right here. Amazing book. I'm going to be showing you a couple books throughout this thing, but this is such a good book, regardless of your age, how old you are. You don't have to be in your 20s to read about this, or if you feel like you're too old for mastery, I don't believe that's true. But the quote is, mastery is the feeling that we have a greater command of reality, other people, and ourselves. So that quote is from this book. He's not specifically talking about self-mastery here, but I feel like this quote is really, really a simple and great way to explain the great command you have over yourself if we're relating it to self-mastery, but mastery in any domain of your life. So that is what it is and why it's important. Really foundational for us to start with that before we get into this next section. And that next section is, what does it look like? So when we're talking about what does self-mastery actually look like, I believe that there are 3 core pillars. Now, once again, this is my series. This is my ideas, my worldview on this. If you disagree, cool. I would actually love to hear if you think there's a pillar I missed or something that is not here. But to me, there are 3 core pillars to self-mastery. And the first one is identity. Okay. And I think this is really, really important. And this was blown open to me from the book Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. But essentially with your identity, what you want to do is rebuild your self-image to become the person capable of achieving any goal or outcome that you want. So this book right here, Psycho-Cybernetics, maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. Maybe it sounds boring. Maybe it sounds too technical. But I'm telling you, this book is incredible. You can see I have highlights all over it. This book, I had heard or learned about a lot of the concepts in this book before I actually read this book, and I realized a lot of them just came from this book. And essentially what he did, he was in the 50s, right? And without making this a book review, by the way, I have been thinking about doing book reviews. I love reading. I'm an avid reader. I read every day. And so if you do want me to do some book reviews in this series, I mean, I would love to do that and share what I'm learning or what I learned with you guys. But back to this, he had this discovery called the self-image. He was a plastic surgeon, and he realized that every single human has this image of themselves, right? And that image dictates what you're capable of achieving in your life, because if something is outside or pushes the boundary of your self-image, you won't do it. You'll find a way to self-sabotage or whatever, right? So this book is hands down the best book I've ever read on identity, and I wanted to share it with you. If you haven't read it, suggest you read it, where he talks about the self-image. But essentially you want to expand your self-image or start to see yourself as the person who's capable of doing whatever it is you need to do. Because no matter how good the tactics you learn, no matter what course you buy, whoever you learn from, it doesn't matter, because what's going to happen, your self-image will stop you if you start pushing the boundaries of it. So that's the first core pillar, is identity. Really big believer in this one. Second one is mindset. So you need to rewire your mindset so focus and discipline become effortless. There's so many books out on this one, but I have 2 books that I really love that really talk about focus and discipline on a deeper level. Of course, there's Deep Work by Cal Newport, stuff like that. But these 2 books I have found have had a really big impact on me and had me see focus and discipline different. So the first one is the Book of 5 Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. This book's really cool. It's a short read as well, so it's not like a long book. And essentially, Miyamoto Musashi was a Japanese samurai in around the 1500s, okay? And this guy apparently was in 60 plus duels to the death and never lost one. So he was in over 60 duels. He survived all of them. And then he wrote this book when he was older, climbed a mountain, and he was praying and stuff, and he wrote it. And essentially this book, he talks about self-mastery, the way of the warrior. Not going to get like too into that right now, but essentially he's all about discipline and having the discipline over yourself and self-mastery and becoming this person who isn't just good at one thing. So he wrote poetry. He obviously wrote this book. He was drawing and painting, right? And he believed that this way of life of mastery and mastery over yourself, it all started with mastery over yourself. And, a guy who was in over 60 duels to the death and didn't lose probably had a pretty good grip on himself. So this book, really good for that. Also a quick read. And then this next one is, for my basketball fans, but you don't have to be a basketball fan to appreciate this. So it's called Relentless. Hopefully the light's not too glaring on that. By Tim Grover. If you don't know who Tim Grover is, he was the trainer for Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, who are arguably two of the greatest basketball players of all time. In my opinion, the two greatest. And he trained them. So he was their actual trainer. And this book, he goes deep into just this mindset of being relentless and having this mindset of wanting to win and doing whatever it takes. And it might sound a bit masculine and a bit workaholic, maybe hustle culture. But the point of it is to become great, you have to have focus, you have to have discipline. And he learned from watching two of the greatest of all time, two of the masters of their craft. And so this book, really, really good for mindset. And then the third pillar is beliefs, right? The beliefs. You need to let go of limiting and harmful beliefs, then add ones that serve you. So when we think about beliefs, right, these stories that we tell ourselves based off our experiences or things that we believe to be true about ourselves, about the world, whatever, we have a lot of these beliefs and stories that are holding us back and stopping us from doing certain things, right? And so this book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, this book was really, really good. Even though it's not actually positioned as a beliefs book, it's technically a wealth book. He talks about money a lot in it, but a lot of things he talks about are not even strictly about money, right? He's not sitting here saying like, put money all around your house and like stare at it. He's saying, look at do you believe that you deserve money? Do you believe that you are accepting, like willing to accept? Because a lot of people who struggle with money, it's not even just a money issue. It's an issue with their ability to receive things, right? Compliments, anything. It's not just money. But anyways, I found this book to be really, really, really good for me putting a flashlight on my beliefs and having me look at myself from a very honest lens about beliefs that I have about myself and about money. And once again, this is obviously tailored towards solopreneurs. So if you're a solopreneur, you're doing business, you're trying to make money. And so it's very, very relevant to have these money blocks and let them go, or at least identify your money blocks and let them go, besides all the other great stuff that he covers in there. So I wanted to share some of those books with you and these three core pillars, because I really believe that these are the three core pillars to mastering yourself and rebuilding yourself as a solopreneur to somebody who can be successful, make more money, land more clients, enjoy what they're doing, all of these things. And so that's all I got for you today. I really wanted to jump into that. I think this is such an important topic. It can be woo-woo for a lot of people, but to be honest, I don't care, because this is what I believe in. And I know the people who believe this are going to resonate with this a lot and who are aligned with this type of stuff. So with that being said, that is all I got for you for episode 5. Thanks so much for being here. I will have a more strict starting time for the series and the show coming up starting next week. So it'll be the same time every day, so you can know when to, expect it and stuff like that. But other than that, thanks for tuning in to another episode, and I'll see you in episode 6 tomorrow.